We're starting to hit that wonderful time of the year where all the releases that were announced last year are coming to fruition this year, and we've already seen some great examples of this with Death's Door being released, and if you haven't given that a go, I highly recommend it. Now the reason I mentioned Death's Door is because if you've played it, you'll notice the subtle undertones of Souls-like games. And for players like me who aren't fully invested in the whole Souls series, these Souls Lite-like equivalents are very enjoyable. Now one in particular I'd like to draw your attention to is getting released later this year, and goes by the name of No Place For Bravery. And if we were to say Death's Door is Souls Lite, then No Place For Bravery is Sekiro Lite. And this is exactly what drew my attention to it. I absolutely loved the arts and thematics of the Sekiro series, and the fighting was just so fun and enjoyable to watch. Anyway, let's start at the beginning. So, it's made by Glitch Factory. They haven't made anything that you probably know of, unless you happen to be a fan of Party Saboteurs, but beside that, this is their first big punch into the gaming space. As previously mentioned, No Place For Bravery is a Sekiro Lite action RPG played from the perspective of top down, and the combat is brutal, gritty and violent. But I'll be honest, the first thing that caught my attention wasn't the fact that it's got this swift style of combat, it was just how visually beautiful the pixelated worlds it creates. From lush rolling deserts to cities made of gore and sinew, it really was a lot to take in. Aside being visually stunning, it also looks like it's got quite the interesting narrative. So in the game you take on the role of Thorn, who is a retired warrior who basically looks after his disabled son. And rather focusing on the glamour side of being a retired war hero, it focuses on more of the darker side of things, touching on subjects as PTSD and what the harrowing effects of being in war for a long time may do to an individual. Anyway, it all kicks off when you find clues that the daughter that disappeared a long time ago may indeed still be alive. And from this point onwards, the story follows the journey of you and your disabled son and the difficult choices you have to make as a parent in a world where everything is going wrong. And for those who like a narrative that's a little bit closer to home, a lot of the stories are actually based on real life events. Anyway, for a game that brags to be Sekiro Lite, it's got to have good combat, and from what I've seen, it seems pretty fluid. The base abilities that I've seen so far is you have a sword, a shield, and the ability to dodge roll. Very similar to most Soul-esque like games. Your character is fragile, weak, and you have to make smart decisions the whole time so you don't get crushed by the gigantuan enemies that you face throughout the game. And often more than not, you'll end up in situations where you have to decide whether you want to kill the enemy or run and live another day. That being said, the combat that I did see did look really cool, fluid, and seemed to animate really well. The mechanics are very similar to Sekiro, and the developers don't do anything to try and hide this, even openly admitting that it did get inspired by the series. Instead of a health bar, enemies have a posture bar, and once that gets to 0, you get the option to execute them. But doing so isn't quite so easy, as battles are often faced off against either huge gargantuan beasts or multitudes of enemies attacking from all directions. From what I've seen, the game does look to be linear in fashion, but the devs do describe it as a Metroidvania, stating that you'll often go back to places that you've already visited because you can then unlock certain areas once you've gained new skills and abilities, which I have absolutely no problem with because I do love a good Metroid style game. But again, to iterate, the combat did look fun, but it's just the detail in the world that looks so good. From lush green biomes to ancient cities that have degraded away, to monsters so big that levels actually exist in their own skulls and bodies. And for a game that's built in a pixel engine, it does a great job at showcasing scale and small minute details. Anyway, I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of people who will get really excited for this, especially for those who are fans of the Souls series, and also those who just want to go at a good action RPG. I don't know quite how punishing it is, but the devs do a point to emphasize that you will need your quick wits about you and have to learn how each of the enemies work. I will also mention the specs on this aren't anything spectacular, so you'll be able to run it on most PC systems. The release date is set for 2021, but speculation is it's going to be later on in the year. Additionally, if you're looking to pick this up on consoles, it currently hasn't been announced for the Xbox or PS4, but you're able to pick up a copy on the PC or the Switch alternatively later on down the line. Anyway, let me know what you think about it. Maybe you've heard of it before, let me know in the comments below. But for now, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll be back with more news soon.